going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Buddy's House of Horror podcast. Happy to have you guys along with me today for another mini-sode. I'm going to try to keep this one short and sweet, just like the film we're going to be talking about this week. Of course, you guys have read the title, so you already know I'm going to be talking about Straight Outta Nowhere, Scooby-Doo meets Courage, the Cowardly Dog. But before we do that, I want to thank all of you guys for checking out all the episodes that I've been putting out so far in October. And if you guys haven't already, I want to remind you guys to make sure you subscribe to my channel over on YouTube. I finally passed the 1,000 subscriber mark, and that's just the beginning. I want to keep on going. Hopefully I can get 2,000 very soon. And yeah, I just want to say thanks for watching the show. Of course, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure you're subscribing to the show over there as well. Make sure you guys are hitting that review button and leaving me a review over on Apple Podcasts and a 5-star rating. And of course, I do have the new voicemail box, so if you guys want to leave me a voicemail, that phone number is down in the description below. I would love to hear your guys' feedback. I would love to have some discussion, maybe do like a fan question and answer sort of episode. I think that would be really, really cool. But yeah, that's enough housekeeping stuff. We're gonna get straight to Straight Outta Nowhere. This, of course, is a brand new film, direct-to-video, of course, from Scooby-Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog. So Scooby-Doo has been getting films direct-to-video for a very, very long time now. Of course, he's been in a million different series over the years. But Courage the Cowardly Dog, it's kind of been a while since we've seen him. Of course, he had the original run back on Cartoon Network, and there was the special, like, A Fog of Courage, which was a long time ago. It was like almost 10 years ago, practically, it feels like, since that. So that's really the last time we've really seen Courage in the mainstream, and even then, I didn't even really hear about the Fog of Courage until a few years later. So really, Courage is kind of underground at the moment, at least in the public eye. But Scooby-Doo, of course, has been around since the late 60s. He's not going anywhere. He'll never go anywhere. Of course, he just had a feature film come out called Scoob, a mainstream theatrical film. So Scooby-Doo has always been around, and Courage, it just makes sense to finally bring these two together. Two dogs who are entrenched in the horror genre for children. Of course, I watched both of these shows a lot as a child. I watch them now, too, occasionally, whenever I feel like watching a cartoon. Of course, they're both on HBO Max. So sometimes it's cool to just, like, pop on an episode, have it on in the background or whatever. But Scooby-Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog are still shows that hold up. I mean, at least the original series of Scooby-Doo. I haven't really watched any of the other ones besides a pup named Scooby-Doo. Well, I guess that's not entirely true because, I mean, all this, basically, I haven't watched any of the Scooby-Doo series that were made, like, in the 90s or 2000s or newer, but I watched, of course, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I watched all the ones in the 80s, like the shorts, like the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo when he meets, like, the Harlem Globetrotters, the Vincent Price kind of stuff. I saw all of those, but as far as, like, modern Scooby-Doo, I'm not really familiar with. By that point, I had moved on to, like, different shows that I was watching. And those Scooby-Doos weren't as good, because I remember seeing a few episodes as a kid, and it just wasn't up to par. Of course, I loved all of the films that had come out to a certain point, like Zombie Island, Alien Invaders, Witch's Ghost, and The Cyber Chase. And Courage was, like, my absolute... I don't want to say it was my absolute favorite, but it was definitely in, like, my top 5 favorite shows when I was a kid. That and, like, Sheep in the Big City. I was a Cartoon Network kid aside from, like, SpongeBob, so I really loved all the Cartoon Network shows, and Courage was always, like, towards the top. I was actually scared of a lot of episodes of Courage the Cowardly Dog when I was a kid. Like, the zombie episode and stuff like that. Like, Courage was a very key element into sparking my horror interest, which we may or may not talk about in another episode at some point, about the TV shows and cartoons that sparked my horror interest. Of course, last year I talked about the films that sparked my horror interest, but we didn't get into any of the TV shows. And Courage was definitely a key aspect of that. So it finally makes sense to have these two together in the same film, Straight Outta Nowhere, instead of, like, Straight Outta Compton. I think that's what they're going for. There is a rap in this film, which we will get to. I don't want to go over the film too in depth. I mean, it's only a 70-ish minute film, and it's a short watch. It breezes through. The one thing I wish they would have gotten a bigger budget to do this. I wish there was more fan interest in this kind of thing, because I think that they should have been able to do like a theatrical thing with this. I think that would have been really good to make like an hour and a half film, make it very high budget, get some people in there. Because I mean, they did the Scoob movie, and like that was, even though like people my age didn't really get into it, from what I mean, I think they're making a sequel. Like, I think it did well. So I think that this should have been like a theatrical thing. Because I don't know, I guess like the audience just isn't there for it, or maybe they weren't aware of it. At the store that I purchased it at the store that I work. We only got 4 copies of it, and of course I got one because I'm obviously talking about the film now. But the other 3 copies sold like that day, and we didn't get any more. So I think the demand for it could be there. Again, I'm not sure if it is or not, but it seems like it could be there. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to do huge box office numbers or anything like that, but I think if you would have, taken your time with it, done a lot of marketing for it, gave it like a big budget kind of feel. And of course with this, I mean, this is not a big budget story. This is definitely a made for TV or direct to video story, but I think they could have done something a little bit better with this. It's sort of, in my mind, it's not a missed opportunity, but hopefully this film does well and they make more. I would love for them to just continue doing a collaboration with Scooby-Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog. I don't think that this should be just like a one-off thing, because I think there's a lot of good stories you can tell, and I think that this film plays tribute to both shows very well. Like, it's not something that's like so off the wall and ridiculous it doesn't feel like either shows. I mean, it uses all the same music from Courage the Cowardly Dog. The animation is similar but updated. Of course, in Courage you have the voice cast that was alive when they made it. Unfortunately, the original actor that played Eustace passed away in the early 2000s, and the guy they replaced him with also passed away. So they had to get a new person to voice Eustace in this. He does a decent Eustace voice, but it's still not completely there. And of course, very sad, but Thea White, the voice of Muriel, sadly passed away. I think it was earlier this year. Yes, I'm looking up the date right now. It was in July 30th, so it was actually very recently she passed away. Very, very unfortunate. She will be greatly missed, by not only the fans, but by those who love her. I've seen that she was very well liked with her friends, family, community, stuff like that. So, very big loss. The Scooby-Doo voice cast, and of course the actor who plays Courage is back, of course. Great to have him back. With the Scooby-Doo stuff, I'm not really as, like, the Scooby-Doo voices, Scooby was great, obviously, because it was still Frank Welker. Matthew Lillard as Shaggy, he always plays Shaggy, but in this, I feel like he was kind of like phoning it in a little bit, and I'm not sure if that's just how he's been in recent adaptations of Scooby-Doo, because again, I haven't seen any of them, so I'm not sure if that's just how he plays the character now, but I think it was a little bit low energy. I mean, I don't know, it just didn't completely fit for me. And the other voice cast for the Scooby-Doo characters do fine. I think most of them are from the shows that they've been doing, but of course I haven't watched any of those, so I'm not sure how good they are compared to how they are in the shows that are going on at the time. But for what it is in the film, I mean, it works, it's serviceable. You're not really there for the rest of the Mystery Inc. gang, you're there for Scooby-Doo and Courage. And the story that they give them is a very timely story, because of course this year is the 17-year mark when the cicadas had risen from the ground. So this film ties into that with the cicadas coming out of the ground. So this was the perfect film to come out in 2021, because other than that, they'd have to wait another 17 years from now for it to come out to make any sort of sense. So I will just read the quick tagline on Letterboxd for this film. Ooga booga booga. Great tagline, ladies and gentlemen, one of the all-time greats. With Mystery Inc. on the tail of a strange object in nowhere, Kansas, the strange hometown of Eustace, Muriel, and Courage, the gang soon finds themselves contending with a giant cicada monster and her winged warriors. This film, as a whole, for me, is kind of a mixed bag. As I said, I wish that they could have done like a big budget kind of thing. But for what it is as like a made-for-TV direct-to-video rather film that they probably, I don't want to say it was like an afterthought, but it definitely isn't in the forefront of like what Warner Brothers is trying to do. It works. I mean, it is what it is. There's some like if you're a fan of the show, there's tons of references in the film to get you tied into the show, especially with Courage. There's a ton of Courage references to old episodes, old characters. At one point, not trying to get, because I don't want to get too deep into the spoilers on this one, but at one point they're blocking the cicada monster from a door, and they're piling up everything on the door like you'd see in like a Scooby-Doo cartoon or whatever. And one of the things they're using to block the door is the haunted mattress from the Scooby-Doo, rather the Courage the Cowardly Dog episode where Muriel gets possessed by the mattress. Of course, you see like pictures of cats all over the place. And yeah, there's a lot of references to both shows in this. And of course, that scene in general is a reference to Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, because they pile all this stuff up at the door. They're like, oh, they can't get in here. And then of course the door opens outward, not in. So everything that they barricaded does absolutely nothing. It's a great scene. Of course, you know it's coming from like a billion miles away. But it's still great to see that it's there. Of course, there's some things in the film that I don't like. As I mentioned, the rap is horrendous. Eustace gives a rap. For some reason, all these modern kids things, they have to like throw like a rap in there. Like in the Space Jam: A New Legacy, they had the Porky the Pig rap. People don't like raps. Like, people don't like these rapping in kids' cartoons. Like, I don't know what is going on with this, but it's a trend that needs to stop. It's been going on for way too long. But overall, again, I don't want to give too much away about the film, about like who's specifically, what happens and who's behind everything. There is a villain behind everything. I don't want to give too many things away about the film. Another thing that I don't really like about it is they try to explain why all these mysterious things are happening in nowhere. Of course, in the show, in the intro to the show, it says weird things always happen in nowhere, and everything. Like, obviously, the show, like in Scooby-Doo, they go to the horror. They're investigating these things, but in Courage, everything goes to them. It all goes to nowhere. It all goes to their farmhouse, and it tries to explain why that is. I wish that wasn't part of the film. I hope that's non-canon. I hope if they do another one, they try to not explain why weird things happen in nowhere. I wish it was just kind of, okay, weird things happen in nowhere. It doesn't need an explanation. But of course, they try to give it one. I don't really know what to really say about it. It just sort of feels like a long episode of the show. Like, it reminds me of, like, when Scooby-Doo would meet other people on his show. Of course, one of the greatest episodes of all time, I think it was a Johnny Bravo episode. It was Scooby-Doo and Johnny Bravo together. It feels similar to that. Which, again, is fine for what it is, but it makes you wish that there was something better about it. It makes you wish that there was more time and bigger budgets and more of a fan interest in it to give it, like, a big budget sort of feel. But regardless, I enjoyed the film. It's not one that I think I'm going to be rewatching ever again. Maybe a couple times down the road. I mean, who knows? But it's not something that I'm itching to watch again. It's not something like, God damn, I gotta watch Scooby-Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog. But I am glad that I saw it. I think it opens doors. Like, I'm looking forward to more stuff like this. And it's hard to really talk about the film without giving things away, because I do want you guys to go check out the film. I'm sure you can rent it online or pick up a DVD like I did, because I want people to pay the money to watch the film so they can make more. Normally with stuff like when we talk about like these big budget things like Malignant or like whatever, like I don't mind giving things away because everyone's gonna see it anyway. But stuff like this where maybe a lot of people aren't going to see it, or maybe a lot of people maybe don't know that it exists, I would rather you guys go pay the money, support the release, so it shows the studios that we want more. And I definitely want more of Scooby-Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog. I just wish the story was a little bit better. Again, I get why they did it. It's a direct-to-video thing. It's not going to be this big, grandiose story or anything. It's just a little story. It's a timely story. Again, it's about the cicadas. because the cicadas came this year, and it's going to be 17 years before they come again. But for me, I wish it was something better. But for what it is, it's fine. It's serviceable. I don't know if kids are going to be into it if they're not fans of the show. I mean, maybe they would be. Of course, the animation is good. No complaints there. Scooby-Doo. I keep saying Scooby-Doo, but I'm trying to say Courage. Courage, he would always blend in different types of animation into the show. Like, there'd be CG stuff, hand-drawn, stuff like that. I appreciate this film is hand-drawn. At least I assume it is. If it's CG, it's hand-drawn style CG. And I love hand-drawn animation. I wish they would do more of it. But yeah, there's not really too much to say about this film. And I didn't take too many detailed notes and it was on intention, because I don't want to give anything away about the film. I want you to go and check out the film, make your own judgments for yourself. And I know this is the hard-hitting content you guys come to Buddy's House of Horror for, to listen to me talk about Scooby-Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog, two titans of horror. But definitely go check it out, support the release, and that's pretty much all that I have to say about it at this time. Again, this isn't like a proper review of it or anything. This is more of just like awareness about it. I want you guys to go and watch it. I want to know what you guys think about it. If you guys check it out, let me know. Leave me a voicemail, leave me a comment down below. And, you know, that's about it for this time, guys. I'm going to wrap this up again, short little episode for you guys. So if you guys haven't already, please make sure you're subscribing wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a rating and review over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and let me know what you guys want to see for the rest of October. I do have a few ideas that I'm bouncing around, but if there's anything you guys want to see me talk about, let me know. There's still time. Maybe I can push it out by the time October is ending. And that's about it. So I'm just going to wrap this up, keep this episode as short as I possibly can without rambling. And that's about it. So I will see you guys again in another episode. So as always, take care and stay spooky.